Assalamu alaikum. This is the second day of the Ramadan fast, 1437 after Hijrah, in the Western calendar known as June 8th, 2016. I'm going to be listening to the Study Al-Islam telephone conference Ramadan session, hosted this morning by Imam Kazim Ahmad.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound key. Please wait while we prepare your files. Press 6 to fast forward for 1 minute. Press 4 to rewind for 1 minute. Press 5 to pause or resume.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmid Deen. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome
Ramadan Mubarak.
to Study Islam Ramadan Sessions. I'm your host today, or early this morning, Imam Qasim Ahmed, coming to you from Houston, Texas. Alhamdulillah, we want to try and continue what we began to talk about yesterday, but I would like to begin with an ayat in Quran, Surah Al-Fatir, the originator of creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in verse 1, Alhamdulillahi alladhi fatira as-samawati wal ard ja'ilu al-mala'ikati rusulan ulu ajnihatin mathna wa thulatha wa ruba' yazidu fi khalqi ma yasha' inna Allaha ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, praise be to Allah who created out of nothing the heavens and the earth, who made the angels messengers with wings, 2 or 3 or 4 in pairs. He adds to his creation as he pleases, for Allah has power over all things. Alhamdulillah, this verse has many, many meanings and implications. But I'd like to share with you what Imam Mohammed rahmatullahi said once. He said, this verse can also indicate the wings of the angels that he's talking about, 2, 3, or 4. He said this can also refer to the prayers that we make in rak'ahs of 2, 3, or 4. He said that there's no prayer where 1 rak'ah is made. He said they're made in 2 or 3 or 4. The Fajr prayer is in 2 rak'ahs. The Maghrib prayer you do 3 rak'ahs, and then the other 3 prayers you do 4. And he referred to this as ascending. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, prayer is the ascension of the Muslim. That when you pray, you actually are ascending, making your ascending. And that ascension is ascending in obedience. So we see the understanding that we are to see in our nature, that our nature is to obey Allah. And it is our obedience that caused us to ascend in the development that Allah had intended for us as human beings. If we understand this, we would concentrate more every day on obeying Allah. We're in the month of Ramadan, and the month of Ramadan is a month of conscious awareness to obey Allah in all of our requirements, our prayer, our fasting, our charity, our kindness, our love to one another, all of the essential nature that makes up the human being. So the human life, if it focuses on obedience, that obedience allows us to evolve in all of the dimensions of that life, whether it's social, whether it's political, whether it's educational, whatever governs our lives, our governor over our lives will be obedience. So obedience serves as the essence of the human being. When we spoke about Adam, alayhi salatu wasalam. I believe the last thing we spoke about was Adam. Adam, who on the ascension. Remember now, these ascending prophets, this ascension of Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is arising to higher and higher levels in the nature of his obedience. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was among what is called the Hunafa, the nature of Hanif nature. And the Hanif nature is a nature that drives us and motivates us to obey Allah. Obey what Allah has put in us so that we will grow. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in living among Mecca, which was Jahili or ignorant Mecca at that time, he never participated in acts of disobedience to the nature that God had put in his soul to obey him. And Allah protected him because of the consciousness that he had of the Rabb, the originator, or the governor over that soul, Rabbil Alameen. So here is Muhammad now. And it's Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who made this ascension. And in the ascension, the first person he met in his soul, not a physical man up in the air someplace, in his soul, he met with the nature of Adam. And Adam represents that original soul, that natural awakening of obedience. That's why he's referred to as the clay that is shaped in obedience. And that obedience coming into discipline and respect for respect for good and respect for God through trial, test, and even punishment. This is Adam. And Adam also represents a control over the fleshly appetite that was containing him. And with knowledge, Adam grow into new worlds, more avenues, and more growth. And in that growth comes temptation. So Adam represents that original soul. So now, if you understand the representation of Adam being that original soul on this level, then the obedience that we're talking about this morning is in every prophet, like it's in every human being. Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul. O you who believe, obey Allah and obey His messengers. So this obedience is a nature. This is the obedience factor in this nature. So on the next level, we mention Jesus and John, which represents water and blood. Water is the moral, spiritual life, the sensitivities of water, you see, but it's obedience. And blood also represents that social life, that social relationship, Imam Mohammed was pointing out, that we have with each other. So now John and Jesus, he said, are on the same level because you need that balance of water and blood. Water and blood. And both are representing the spiritual obedience for human purity. Spiritual obedience for human purity. That's why water, we find it in all of the rituals of the religions of washing and cleansing, etc. So we call it wudu. But there's another purity that we have called tahara. Tahara is an internal purity of consciousness of obedience. So the Prophet ﷺ said, وَمِفْتَاحُ الْجَنَّةِ الصَّلَاةُ وَمِفْتَاحُ الصَّلَاةُ الطُّهُورُ, that the key to the Jannah, the paradise, is prayer. And the key to the prayer is tahara, purity. And Allah also says in the Quran, لَا يَمَسَّتْهُ إِلَّا مُتَطَهِّرُونَ, that none can touch the Quran except for those who are pure. So even if you read perfect Arabic and etc., if your purity does not exist in your obedience to Allah, then you're not going to get anything out of it. You're just rereading words, you see. Now, so on the next level, in this 7 of ascension, remember we talked about the 7, we're going to continue with this 7. Yusuf is that next nature, and we're talking about the nature or principles in the human being that Muhammad ﷺ was evolving upon and meeting with the attributes of these natures in his own soul. So so we're looking at this aspect in the soul called Yusuf, which is the intuitive person, the person of imagination, the person of intellect acquisition, the person of clear perception, looking for rational answers, which you find in the child when he's first born, called curiosity. And curiosity is a motivation because of his imaginative principle that's in him. So here is Yusuf, and remember now, each one of these has in it obedience. When I'm talking to you this morning on each one of these prophets, who's on this ascension that is being met by Prophet Muhammad in his excellent nature, we always refer back to obedience. The whole object is I'm rising up, I'm ascending up in my responsibility as a human being, but I'm also recognizing that if I am continue to grow on every level, I must refer back to obedience. So again, Ramadan is a month that promotes obedience, to Allah through taqwa. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that perhaps you can learn obedience or conscious regardfulness to obey God. So, coming back now. And so on this ascension now, after we met Adam in our soul, we met Jesus in our soul, we met Yusuf in our soul. And remember I said yesterday, I asked the question, are you willing to follow Muhammad all the way? So now this morning we'll continue to following Muhammad on the ascension by trying to understand his rise to a higher level, which is a key that unlocks the meaning of life. His rise to higher level is a key that unlocks the meaning of life. And Al-Fatiha, as we said yesterday, is a key. Is the key. From Fatiha means to open, Miftah from the same root word means the key that does the opening. So now we come to Idris. You know, we have Adam, Jesus, and John. Idris on the third level, and then, probably Yusuf on the third level, and then Idris becomes on the fourth level. Which represents in man's life the academic soul, you see, the study, the scholarly work, structured acquisition of knowledge. Idris, the word comes from darasa. Darasa means he studied. So Idris represents connecting the academic acquisition of knowledge and learning with the natural world. The natural world has knowledge all in it. Now we know how to connect this knowledge so that we will be able to progress our life under what we call education. You see, education. But if you look at the education world today and the academic world today, people have PhD degrees and master's degrees and all these degrees, but they have disobedience in that knowledge. That knowledge allows them to disobey even their own natural nature. You take a person who has a double PhD degree, and when he gets off work, he has to go by the bar to the happy hour to get drunk and get happy through liquors and things. So, I'm just giving a quick example. So Idris represents the academic soul of study, scholarly work, and structured work, and etc., and connecting the learning with the natural world, with knowledge that you get out of the natural world. So this is in the soul. The soul has this motivation and this drive in it. Now we come to the fifth level, Harun or Aaron, which represents literary expression, cultural expression, and connecting history so that history will show the evolving connecting of life. Imam Mohammed, he mentioned once, he said, in the Quran, he said, الذي علم بالقلم الذي علم بالقلم, and Allah taught the use of the pen. He said the pen, man's use of the pen is the one that records his history of his movement so that generations after him can become more refined, you see. So Aaron represents refinement, cultural refinement, learning from other societies and etc. And I'm rushing because, we only got a short time. But, so this is Aaron. Aaron's on the fifth level. Then Moses. Moses represents strategy and plan. And why is that? Because now the human nature is captured under difficult situations that's called Pharaoh. Pharaoh is not just a man in history, but Pharaoh is a principle of oppression that comes into the human nature that invites you to worship other than Allah, you see, disobeying God by seeing himself as God. Pharaoh mentioned in himself, he said, I know no other God but me. So when you get to a psychological state where you meet these situations in life, pretty soon you will begin to get further and further away from obedience to Allah. So Moses had a strategy. Moses had a plan. So he said he represents strategy and plan. And he also represents law. And he represents ruler in the social life. Ruler in the social life. So this is Moses. And remember, I'm referring you back to that this nature that we're talking about is the nature of obedience. And now this movement in the soul is striving towards something, meeting with these different principles. Adam, Jesus and John, Yusuf, Idris, Aaron, Moses. And in that driving force, we're coming toward Ibrahim alayhi wassalam. And now, one thing to remember too, on this ascension, there are two daddies, two fathers. One name is Adam on the first level, and then the seventh level is Abraham, or Ibrahim. He's on the level 7. And 7 represents what? Completion. So here's 1. We started out with Adam, which represents the original soul, the natural awakening in that soul for obedience, you see. So Adam is that father, and now that soul in its original movement is moving toward something, meeting with these other developments in the soul. Jesus and John, Yusuf, Idris, Aaron, Moses. Now we're arriving at Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he represents faith based on rational inquiry. And every one of these prophets that we mentioned, for every one of these principles in the nature of the human being that we have mentioned, represents also faith, you see, and faith on different levels. You know, not that the faith was weak, but the faith has to reach a understanding. And it's Abraham who arrived at faith based upon rational inquiry. Not only that, his obedience was so indelible or so strong that when he was tested with his faith and his obedience, his question of now understanding God is understanding God's role with life and death. And Allah asked him, do you not believe? He said, yes, but to satisfy my understanding, mutma'inna, to arrive at a state of peace in the soul, al-mutma'inna. So his faith, based on rational inquiry, and also charity. Charity, you know. Abraham loved his son, Ishmael, and always wanted a son. Finally, he gets the son. And when he gets to the age where he can assist him in his work, God said, kill him. And when he takes that to his son asked the question, is this from God? He said, yes. He said, I'm willing. So Abraham was willing, and his son was willing. These two principles, father and son, that came from Abraham was willing to sacrifice. Abraham was willing to make the sacrifice, and that was to be sacrificed was willing. So Allah stopped and said, it is your willingness to obey that was the test. You see? So he was ordered to kill a sheep and share that with society, that humble nature, that charity nature, etc. So all of this is based upon Abraham striving with his faith through rational inquiry. He wanted to know why I worship God. Not just that I believe in him, but why, you see? And connected with rational understanding, which is the highest development in the human being's thinking process. That Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, there's no higher development than the intellect. Man being using his intellect. And when we look at our intellect can help us, or our intellect can destroy us, depending upon how you obey. You see, the same mind that comes into knowledge, you know, great knowledge from Allah's creation, you see, and he put the knowledge in the creation, and the knowledge is perfect. خَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ, that he created the heavens and the earth bil-haq, with the reality of truth. So everything in the creation has the foundation of truth in it, and man's intellect rises upon that foundation. But that foundation must have in it obedience. Now we come to Muhammad to understand his ascension. When he ascended now and met with all of them, what did he do? He led them in Salah. Imam Mohammed pointed it out like this. He said, when you make prostration, there's 7 points that touch the floor, that touch the earth, the outer. You see, the head and nose together, the forehead and nose, the two hands, the two knees, and the two feet, all touch on one level. And he brought that whole movement on harmony. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, Allah says in the Quran. And there's no harmony, there's no agreement except with Allah. So وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, so he's making sajda, And then Imam Muhammad, he says, now where is Prophet Muhammad now, when all of the prophets on one level? You see? He said, where is he? He said, he's above them in the heart. He said, he's above them. So when you make sajda, notice that your heart is above all those points. You see? And he said, now what was sent to the heart of Muhammad? He said it was Quran. It is the Quran that was revealed to the heart of Muhammad, the Prophet ﷺ. And it's the Quran that's the leader, that's guiding all of these natures. So brothers and sisters who are listening this morning, if you can understand this, you're coming outside of just ritual. Imam Muhammad, he said, rituals are designed to preserve knowledge, but you have to go into the ritual to get the knowledge out of it. And this understanding of this ascension and this sajda, making prayer, where these natures of striving for obedience that are called Adam, Jesus and John, Yusuf, Idris, Harun, and Moses and Ibrahim, all of these principles that are in you. So I ask the question now, again, as I did yesterday, are you willing to follow Muhammad all the way? You see, are you willing to obey God in all of these developments that are in you? These same developments that Imam Muhammad, he pointed out, he said, these developments are possibilities within ourselves. You see, he said, now if there are possibilities within ourselves, then let us go back and see something else. God created the heavens and the earth on a pattern, a natural pattern. And it says it is the pattern upon which he has patterned man, the human being. You see? So this is in the Quran in verse chapter 30 and 30. فَأَكِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ النَّاسِ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. You see? So set yourself, your direction, towards the pattern of Hanif. It is the fitrah of God that he has placed man upon. So we began reading with Surah Al-Fatir, which is the fitrah that God is talking about, the original pattern, the original soul that was put in Adam. And his original soul and pattern in us is in every human being. خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. We have created you on one soul. And that soul is connected with the universal soul that's found in the creation of the universe. So it's consciousness. Safwa. The fast that we're doing is not just to abstain from food, drink, and etc. Yes, that is what we do. But why? Because these are life drives. You need food to live. You need drink to live. And you need procreative activity called sex to live. But Allah says, stop all those things for me. Not at night, in the day. Why the day? Because you're conscious. It's easy to obey God when you sleep. And you in your mind, you working. You just sleep. And God takes the soul at night, so he's protecting you. But when you wake up, he gives that conscience back to you. You are to protect yourself. But how can you do that? By having the Quran, reading the Quran. So the fast has these major points in it. We're fasting from those life principles that drive us and keep us alive. But it's the Quran and its reading that really keeps us alive and keeps us at peace, you see. So read the Quran, you see. Read the Quran. So the command to Muhammad, the Prophet ﷺ, his first order was Iqra, Bismi Rabbika Allati Khalaq. Read, you see. So don't feel that your reading of the Quran is a burden. You see, the Quran is a life substance. It is the real food for the soul. It is the real life for the soul. It's the real drink for the soul. It's the real intercourse for the soul. And if you understand that, just believe, look, if you love people and study Imam Warith Muhammad's insight, on how he grew this community that we are a part of from a double portion of blindness. I remember Imam Muhammad said, Farad Muhammad came and put a blindfold on a blind man. You see, you already blind, he put a blindfold on it. He said, and if he did that, what does it mean? It means it makes you doubly want to see. You see, so it's a double, Allah will bless you with a double mercy. So that mercy that Allah blessed us with in the leadership of Imam Muhammad gave us the ability now to have us to think clearly. You see, we see now, even in the world, or the Muslim world and other places, people are in confusion. So we want to invite you to the Quran, the study of the Quran, and understand that these principles are living forces in us that are going to evolve us to a higher consciousness as we are seeing. So may Allah bless you all with an excellent Ramadan and give us the strength to live and obey Allah in everything that we do. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam.